What's up guys, in this video I'm comparing the Pixel 5a 5G with the original Google Pixel. Let's go ahead and get started. So the Pixel 5a is a 2021 phone, and the original Google Pixel was launched way back in October of 2016. So 5 years separate these devices. Obviously the Pixel 5a has 5G. The Google Pixel has 4G LTE. So that's a big difference right there. The overall Pixel 5a 5G price is $450, which by no means is expensive. It is a very reasonable price, especially in 2021 for what you get on this device. The Google Pixel is only obviously available used, and you can get it for less than $50. The Pixel 5a 5G weighs 6.4 ounces, while the Google Pixel weighs even less at a measly 5 ounces, so a very lightweight device, the Google Pixel. As for build quality, very similar. Pixel 5a 5G, aluminum frame, aluminum back. The first Pixel is aluminum and glass back with aluminum frame, so not much has changed. Build quality is still very nice on the Google Pixel. And for the SIM card, both of these have the nano SIM card slot, but the Pixel 5a has eSIM. The original Google Pixel does not have the eSIM that was introduced in the Pixel 2. Basically, you could have two data connections, two different carriers, two different phone numbers with an eSIM, and you could activate the device without a physical SIM card. Also, you get IP67 dust and water resistance on the Pixel 5a 5G, up to 1 meter for 30 minutes. The first Pixel only had water repellent coating. As for the display, the Pixel 5a has an OLED 60 Hz display. The first Pixel has an AMOLED display with 60 Hz as well. The screen size on the 5a is 6.3 inches. Original Pixel 5 inches, so a way smaller screen on the original Pixel. For screen to body ratio, you got 85% on the 5a, 69% on the original Google Pixel, so you have a lot of bezel on the first one. Resolution is pretty much the same, 1080p screen, 415 ppi on the 5a, 441 on the Pixel. So we stayed the same with the resolution. You have always on display on the 5a, original Google Pixel does not. As for software, it's night and day. The Pixel 5a launched with Android 11, and it's going to get several years of updates, while the first Pixel launched with Android 7, but its last upgrade was up to Android 10. So it's had its run, but obviously you're not going to get any more updates on the Pixel, the first one. For the chipset, the Pixel 5a has a Snapdragon 765G processor. Original Pixel Snapdragon 821. So obviously you have a newer chipset on the 5a. Although it's not a flagship, it will definitely get the job done. Original Pixel has it pretty much is a flagship when it was in its heyday at 821, but obviously it's not as snappy today in 2021. Now for the internal storage, the 5a comes with 128 gigs. That's a healthy amount, while the original Pixel started off with a base of 32 gigs. So that's nothing compared here in 2021, but neither of these offer a micro SD card slot. As for RAM, you got 6 on the 5a, you got 4 on the original Pixel. As for the cameras, the 5a has 2 cameras on the back, 12 megapixel main, 16 megapixel ultra wide. The first Pixel only had a 12 megapixel shooter on the back, and you could shoot 4K with both of these bad boys. Similar setup for the selfie camera. Both of these phones have 8 megapixel selfie cameras shooting at 1080p, and you have a headphone jack on both of these phones. Both of these have Bluetooth. You got 5.0 on the 5a, 4.2 on the first Pixel. Both have NFC, and both have the USB Type-C port for charging. Both have the rear-mounted fingerprint reader. As for battery, 5a has a 4,680 milliamp battery, while the first Pixel has a smaller 2,770 milliamp battery. But they both charge with fast charging at 18 watts. So after going with the specs and all that good stuff, what are my thoughts? How do these really compare? What are my cons and pros of both of these? Well, Obviously, the Pixel 5a 5G is the superior device. It has grown up by leaps and bounds, but there's some areas where the original Google Pixel still stands up to that Pixel 5a 5G. I mean, $450 is a great price for a phone with flagship level quality. There's no compromises really on the Pixel 5a 5G. But for less than $50, you can get the original Google Pixel, and in some cases, it still stands up with the Pixel 5a 5G, even though these devices are 5 years apart. But there's some things that I'll definitely stand up, way more on the Pixel 5a 5G. Obviously, it's 5G. The first Pixel has like tons of bezels, which is not good. That makes it feel very outdated. But build quality is still pretty much the same. You got a lot more screen real estate on the 5a 5G. That's pretty much an XL version in 2021. The original Pixel, it's not a huge or heavy device at all. But yeah, the one thing that stands out on the Pixels is the ability to have eSIM, which the first Pixel didn't have. So that's something that only Pixels and iPhones and some Samsungs have. So the Pixel 5a 5G has that ability. Also, a flagship feature is having IP67 dust and water resistance, which the first Pixel did not have. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck for $450. Now for the display, it's way bigger on the Pixel 5a 5G. You got a tiny 5-inch display on the first Pixel, and now in 2021 the trend is going bigger and bigger and bigger. You're not going to find a small Pixel anymore. Resolution still stay the same, which is still good when the original Pixel launched, and always on display is something that was launched on the Pixel 2, I believe. Software, obviously, yeah, that's a big thing, but the original Google Pixel had, recent Android 10, which is good. Pixels have always had great update cycles with the software, and in a lot of cases, you're going to get the same experience on both of these. With it's not, Android doesn't update too much with features with every upgrade. The big thing that's a difference between these devices is the chipset. 765G processor in the 5A is obviously going to be way faster, and you're going to get way more life out of it. The Pixel is kind of down and out, but for all your day-to-day activities, you're not going to see a big difference in performance. Basic stuff like checking your email, Twitter, social media, they might load a little bit slower on the original Pixel, but everything else is going to load pretty much the same, except for high-end gaming. You can't really do on the original Pixel, and video editing is not going to be good on the original Pixel, but it'll get the job done for a lot of other apps. Storage is a big difference. 32 does not bode well for the original Pixel. You can't really hang with that anymore. Camera quality on the Pixel hasn't changed that much, but the only addition really for the original Pixel 5a or the original Pixel to the 5a is that it has an ultra wide camera added. They both shoot in 4K. Selfie camera is the same setup. Both have a headphone jack if you're into that. I'm not really into that anymore. Bluetooth, although it's upgraded on the 5A, 4.2 will still happily connect to all your devices with your wireless speakers, wireless headphones, and your smartwatch. They both will work with NFC and payments, so that's not a thing. Both have the USB Type-C port. That's a standard thing. One thing that's surprising is that they're still using the rear-mounted fingerprint reader, but it's such a reliable, old-school way of unlocking your device. They decided to keep it in here embedded, and the weird thing is that less reliable in-display fingerprint readers make the device more expensive, but I like that rear-mounted fingerprint reader, so the Pixel stands up. The first one still stands up to the 5A with that. And last but not least is the battery. And this is where the Pixel made leaps and bounds compared to the first one. You get 2 days out of that 4,600 milliamp battery, while the original Pixel, and like all other Pixels before the 5A, has a tiny battery which will not last you half a day. Even with, when it was new, it was not a nice battery. And now that you're going to get one degraded, battery life will be terrible, terrible. So in the Pixel world, the Pixel phones are supposed to be the iPhones of the Android world. And this is a good comparison because the Google Pixel, besides the battery, it still holds up very well compared to the 2021 Pixel 5a 5G. If you take away the 5G part, everyday apps and activities are still going to be pretty much the same, except it's just going to be a little bit slower on the original Google Pixel. It holds up very well, especially for $50. If the battery was brand new, I would still use original Google Pixel. It still does all the things I needed to do, even with Android 10. It's still a pretty good device, but man, when you talk about how Google has finally made a phone that is a flagship at a mid-range price of $450, I mean, that deal is just too good. It's simply the best phone that you could get, and it just shows how far the 5A has come from the Google Pixel, the original one. So yeah, I mean, it just shows how the Pixel line has kind of aged gracefully in a way. And getting all those updates, you could definitely get 4 years out of Pixels, but it's just nice to see the comparison between the 5A and the original Pixel. And there's just a few things that are different, and there's a few things that stay the same. So yeah, guys, if you like this video, I appreciate it if you subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. It really helps out the channel. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.